All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Bash live in Miami. Super Bowl 54. How are you going to bet the game? What's the way to go? How to do it? Darren Rovell from the Action Network is with us. We're going to look at all the different angles as we get ready for Super Bowl 54. This hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by Cape Regional Health Systems and, of course, the Wonder Bar. Watch the big game at the Wonder Bar in Atlantic City. Darren.
Sounds good. If I was in Atlantic City, I'd go to the Wonder Bar.
We welcome you to the Wonder Bar. We would welcome you to the Wonder Bar. Speaking of Atlantic City, it is one of the few places that you can walk into a place and hang out for Super Bowl Sunday and make a bunch of bets and hang out.
I know. I saw the guys in Albany. I'm like, oh my God, you're the first person in New York who I know has made a bet in New York because they're like 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's our sister station over there. But how do you think it has gone for Atlantic City and Jersey?
I mean, Atlantic City's a different story than Jersey, but I think Atlantic City's done well. I mean, you just look at the Nevada being unaffected. I mean, Nevada having their record year, $5.3 billion, up 6% from last year. People still like to walk into a book, and I don't know how the Atlantic City numbers are specifically, but I know people are going to Ocean, and obviously I see bets that are coming in that are big bets that are there. I think it's going well. I think it's all additive. It's not like, because some people are like, oh, Atlantic City, Jersey being mobile, that's not a good thing for Atlantic City. But I think it's actually been okay. I think everyone's been able to survive.
Yeah, and we had Jason Robbins on earlier in the show from DraftKings, and he was kind of mentioning that the mobile and the brick and mortars are actually both doing pretty well, which I was surprised as well.
Because Jersey's at like 86% mobile, obviously.
Yes.
But if you're going to walk in, you're going to walk into either the Meadowlands or go to Atlantic City.
What do you feel that the brick and mortars are going to be obsolete at some point, or are they more for the attraction of just hanging out?
I mean, I think the brick and mortars and the big bets are the guys that are flying in from state. It just depends on how fast these other states come online, I would say. But I'd rather be in the mobile business, obviously, than the brick and mortar business. It's funny because William Hill was for a long time. I mean, they said we're going to be in the brick and mortar business, and I don't think they thought that it was going to be. They thought that it was going to be on mobile, but I think they probably thought a number was going to be closer to 70% instead of 85%.
What's been the biggest surprise for you, in your opinion, so far with the legalization of sports gambling?
New York.
New York?
I mean, that's the craziest thing. We don't know why Cuomo is opposed to it. It's just so strange. I mean, I live in New Jersey, but I work in New York, and it's like two different countries, right? I take a FanDuel wrapped bus. I take a FanDuel wrapped bus into the city, 17 miles, and then I'm in a place where I can't legally bet. I mean, it's very strange. And he hasn't even said anything about that he's morally opposed or anything like that.
I was going to ask you why.
No, he actually has not stated. All he says is unconstitutional, which people have said, and lawmakers, even state legislatures have said, if you want us to put the servers in those 4 casinos, we'll do it. And that would get around the unconstitutional thing. But it's very strange that New York could have actually beaten New Jersey because they grandfathered those casinos in 2013, and then it took a year for them even to get that going. So I'd say New York, especially against the face of the fact that, 20% of the bets are happening within the border. I mean, they've turned Secaucus into a tourist destination.
Secaucus.
Can you imagine being the sponsorship guy for New Jersey Transit? You can't sell anything for years, and then there's like 8 sportsbooks being like, okay, like DraftKings legit probably paid $2 million to have every advertisement in Newark.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like, and they're taking the floors of the trains and hey, you got anything? I'll wrap the train. I'll do anything, It's crazy.
The one thing, too, there's only 5 states currently, right, that you can bet mobily?
I think it might be 7 now.
So whatever it is, it's very low. But is it going to be a fight to get that done? I mean, do you think that's something that, because you think about, we live in Jersey, so our mindset is so different.
Right.
But I can't believe West Virginia, which is where I went, has mobile gambling from being there. But
by the way, I was at the first West Virginia game when they had beer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was too.
Yeah, we did nice. We did it.
I was in the student section.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we did
Yeah.
it outside the lines with Oliver Luck on that. That was, but yeah, no, I was actually surprised about West Virginia. I mean, there's some surprises there. I mean, North Carolina, you thought the Bible Belt plus tribe was going to be an issue.
Yeah.
There's some states that, I mean, Texas is falling along lines of doing nothing. Florida actually, despite their tribal issue, might get things done. But I think we'll have 25 states legal by the end of the year, probably 20 operational and probably 10 mobile.
Wow.
But it's hard to get everything together. I mean, even Tennessee, which seems to be the most flexible, they're the only state where it's just going to be mobile. They announced it in August, and we're like, we have no idea when it's going to get going.
Wow.
I do think it's hilarious. I do think it's hilarious the price to have a sports book in various states that are literally touching each other. So I could get a sports book in Indiana for $100,000, but in Illinois it's $10 million. It's really is it that much? Should it be that much? And then in Iowa it's $40,000. It's I'll open a sports book in my basement for that. $40,000.
Oh man, it's absolutely nuts. And listen, there's a game happening this weekend, obviously too, and this conversation and this game go hand in hand. But now it's legal. For some reason,
well, I got to go home to bet.
We have to go home to bet, but it's starting to become taken out of the shadows, right?
Oh yeah, No, I've had I've done a ton of radio interviews, and people they actually know. The average host knows a lot, even whether they're betting or not. They know a lot more in terms of their talk this year than I feel like I had to do a lot more explaining last year.
Why is purple Gatorade always the?
No, it was just this year. It's just someone on Twitter just decided that they were going to honor Kobe through throwing the purple Gatorade on the winning coach, which is just. Is that a way to honor Kobe? I mean, it's like hey, we have new rest in peace donuts. I mean, come on, that's not a way to honor Kobe. So.
You said you hadn't yet decided how you're betting this one. In terms of this line,
and I don't need to, by the way. One of the things with the Action Network is don't bet just because you can bet. Bet because you can figure out some sort of edge. I think the edge is probably on the total. I would take the under now.
That's what we keep hearing.
Now that it's at 55, I mean to have a total move 4.5 on game 256 of a season is very rare with no new information. So I would take the under there, and also obviously because people love offense, they're going to overinflate the offense and they're going to discount the defense. I think people think that Mahomes and the Chiefs are better than they are offensively, and I think that they are not accounting enough for the 49ers defensively.
Okay, Scott.
This spread though at one I think is what it currently is.
1.5 Chiefs. Yeah.
Recent Super Bowls. Is this one of the more difficult ones to predict?
It's the
game
most
spread.
It's the most difficult. I'm doing 19 years. It's the most difficult because it should be 49ers 1.5 probably, and it's 1.5 Chiefs. So it's basically a pick'em Super Bowl, which I can't remember, at least since I've been covering it. So
Darren Rovell, Action Network, with us here. What are some of the numbers, bets-wise, that have stood out leading up to this game? What are some of the quirky things that you've been tracking?
We have, obviously the biggest bet, Mattress Mac again with his. I mean, despite the fact that he's lost $2 million betting against the Chiefs, he wants another $1 million on the 49ers. So he did that. That's probably the biggest bet I've seen. Interesting bet last night. There was a bet at MGM took a bet on the total on the over of 42.5. So a guy bought basically 12 points.
Wow.
Which, by the way, I never do. Even if it comes through even if it's hitting a critical number, I usually don't even buy a half a point. I'm either making the bet or not. He bought it down, so essentially, it's a $450,000 bet to net $100,000. I don't know. It seems like a lot.
Yeah, he bought 12 points
Correct.
for $100,000.
I guess it's an alternate. They're offering all these alternate lines, and one of my rules is once you start paying, once you're getting to minus 140, 150, unless you really think it's something really bad, or it's a guarantee, which happens sometimes. I mean, sometimes there's they don't account for it. That's one of the good things in New Jersey is. We have a guy, Justin Fan at the Action Network, who basically sits on Twitter, an injury comes out, and he just looks at one of the 19 sports books and sees if they move or not, and if they don't, he'll hit it. And if not, he won't bet that game. But it happens within a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Live betting is also, I don't know if you guys have gotten into live betting, but I've done more and more live betting, and just to try to find out exactly how to do it. And I've kind of gotten good at it this year in terms of what you have to do. I've noticed around the 32-yard line, the opponent's 32-yard line, that's when you determine whether you think they're going to have 0, 3, or 7. Right, because if there's a holding call, then it gets to the 42. They probably won't score. If it's a 6-yard rush, they're going to they definitely have a 3.
Well,
so
that's some insight right there.
Right, so 32-yard line. Okay, that's your little.
My head hurts,
play
but
right
I'm with
there.
you.
No, and then you just got to go against the public. Like I made so much money on Thanksgiving because at 7-0, when the Cowboys were up 7-0, obviously there's a huge casual audience on Thanksgiving. People love the Cowboys. They were up 7-0. The Chiefs were at plus 630 at 7-0, which is like the real odds should be plus 200. But you have the casual audience, Thanksgiving, people looking for something to do, only betting on the Cowboys, and it's like crazy.
What's the? You just alluded to some absolutely great insight there. But what's another sucker bet? With the air quotes, right? Like, what's something that the public loves to bet on, and you're sitting there shaking
the
your
public
head?
doesn't look at the stats, right? So, like, they just think they know things. Like, so each week. So my bet of the week 2 weeks ago was Lamar Jackson not to have a rushing touchdown, and people were like, "Oh my God, that's the dumbest bet ever." And it's like, no, actually, he's had rushing touchdowns, but he's only had rushing touchdowns in 6 out of 16 games, or like, And then the next week was Derrick Henry not to score a touchdown of any kind, and he did with like 6 minutes in, but then he had 69 yards for the whole game, and it was just like a positional touchdown. So this week, my smart bet that you think is free money is Patrick Mahomes under 2.5 total touchdowns. People are like, that's awful. What an awful bet. But I'm on the. I might have it wrong, but I'm statistically actually on the right side of that.
Is making a bet on Tom Brady's next team a smart one? You could do that in Jersey.
I don't know. After he put on Twitter him walking out in black and white after Kobe's death and like with no caption, I would go no team right now.
Darren Rovell, Action Network, great stuff. Super Bowl 54, you can bet it in New Jersey, of course, Atlantic City. Get out there, have a lot of fun. Don't bet over your head, and obviously have fun on Sunday. We appreciate your time,
Thank
man.
you.
Darren Rovell, everybody from the Action Network here on the Sports Bash. And, of course, this hour of the show, it's brought to you by Cape Regional Health Systems. Call 609-463-CAPE. And, of course, the Wonder Bar in Atlantic City, Sunset Avenue. Check out the Wonder Bar. That's where Darren Rovell would go if he was in Atlantic City for the big game. We'll be back with more Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.